Well, I know this time of year it can be hard to get yourself motivated to get out of the house and go explore our wonderful area here along coastal Delmarva, but our Delaware state parks still have some really cool activities for you to do, including a tour of the Indian River Lifesaving Station, where you get to see some of the tools that were used, some of the survival techniques that were used in shipwreck rescues. So we're going to give you a little taste of that tour right now.
So you are here, like I said, at the Indian River Lifesaving Station. It was part of the United States Lifesaving Service. We've all heard of the Coast Guard, right? Helping people who are in trouble at sea. That's basically what these guys were doing, right? So they were kind of the Coast Guard before the Coast Guard. So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is, the tools, the techniques, the technology that they had to make sure they could go out and they could come back with folks. Standing watch was a very important job, but so was going on your nightly patrol. So every night you went on a 4-hour patrol, usually about 2.5 miles one way and then 2.5 miles back, looking for sailors on the beach or ships giving off distress signals, stuff like that. You would then, the idea was, meet the person coming from the next station, right? You'd join up, say, hey, any shipwrecks tonight? No, good, everything is all right. You'd walk back to your station. And that's where your surfman's check comes in. So you'll see that each of these surfman's checks is numbered with your district, station, and surfman number, so it's individualized to each person. You would take this with you on your hike. You'd walk your 2.5 miles north. You'd meet the guy coming down from Rehoboth, and you would exchange checks. And then you'd take this on your 2.5 mile walk back down south. You'd show it to the keeper and say, look, it's got the other guy's numbers on there, right? Clearly I wasn't napping in the dunes. I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. Let's say you were on patrol. You're out walking around and you do see a shipwreck. How are you going to alert the other guys back at the station? Can you get on your cell phone? No. Yeah, flare, absolutely. So we've got Coston flares, the pictures of those Coston flares there. We've also got some Coston flare handles. Coston flares were originally developed by the guy with the incredible name of Benjamin Franklin Coston. With a name like that, how could he not be an inventor, right? He worked for the Navy using all sorts of nasty chemicals, and eventually he poisoned himself to death during his work. Yeah, and he left behind a wife, Martha, and I believe 4 kids at the time. And this was the end of the 1800s. Martha was kind of in a precarious situation. There wasn't a whole lot of socioeconomic mobility for widows at this point, but she did something really interesting. Instead of just remarrying, she gathered all of her husband's notes and came up with a workable prototype of the flare, and then went on a multi-country tour selling them. She sold them all throughout Europe, she sold them to the US Navy, and by the end of the Lifesaving Service's history, every single station was equipped with Coston flares. So you're on your patrol, you see a shipwreck, you light off your flare. Back here in the cupola, the guy on watch, he's going to see that flare go off. He's going to start waking everybody else up, and they're going to run down here into the boat room. So there's actually some pretty interesting technology built into this boat to increase their chances of survival. We've got the holes in the sides, the scupper holes here. So you'll notice that the scupper holes are even with the floor of the boat in there, right? The deck. So let's say you're paddling out, the wave breaks over you, starts to fill the boat with water. You don't have time to start bailing that out. With the scupper holes, the water will run right out and you can keep going. It's got a really shallow draft, so you're not going to get stuck on those sandbars you're trying to get out to, right? And then finally, you may have seen all these little wooden floats with the ropes. Let's say you do flip over, right? You can't just abandon the rescue. You got to get back in the boat. So these would all float out. Your surfmen were trained to swim to the same side. They'd grab these guys, toss it over the upturned hull, swim to the other side, grab them, and then yank down, and that would flip the boat so they could get back in. The average team could do it in about 20 seconds. So the surf boat, like I said, this is what they were going to use the most, but even with all the technology and all the training, this was kind of dangerous. Getting into the water is dangerous, right? So if possible, they would prefer to use the beach apparatus. The main kind of piece in your beach apparatus is the Lyle gun right here. So they would drag the beach cart down to where the wreck is. The keeper and surfman number 1, the most experienced keeper, they would take out the Lyle gun, start getting that ready. The lowest ranked surfman would start digging a hole for our sand anchor, and everybody else would start pulling out the ropes and the pulleys. So once your Lyle gun was ready, you could load it up with a projectile. The projectile weighed 17 to 19 pounds. You can see it has this little eye bolt on the end. So you would attach what's called the shot line to that eye bolt and load it up into the Lyle gun. So the idea is to drape that shot line kind of over the rigging of the other ship. Does that make sense? So we're gonna pretend that that pole over there is like the mast of our sinking ship, right? So we've fired the shot line over. We're gonna hope that the sailors on board this sinking ship are smart enough to start pulling on a rope that we've sent them. Once they do, we can attach a thicker rope called the whip line to it. So they'll start pulling the whip line in. The whip line comes with a set of instructions. They're right here on what's called a tally board. The tally board basically says, make this fast to your mast and give us a wave back to shore. So they do that. Now we tie on an even thicker rope called the hawser, and they pull that in. That also has tally boards that basically say, make this fast 5 feet further up and give us a wave back to shore. They do that. Now back on the shore, we can put up what's called the crotch, so called because it looks like a pair of legs. That's going to give our hawser tension over here. We can attach a whole bunch of blocks and pulleys, and then finally, our breeches buoy, so called because it's a pair of pants or breeches attached to a buoy, right? And now we've essentially made a big pulley system. So our surfmen, instead of getting into the water, they can stand on land. They'll start pulling on this rope. That sends the breeches buoy out to the ship. A sailor hops on there, and then you can pull the line the other way. You take them right off the ship, all the way back to land. Hopefully only their tiny little toes get wet in the water. Everybody stays nice and safe.
And the Indian River Life Saving Station saved more than 400 lives and responded to more than 60 shipwrecks. How cool is that? But if you would like to check out that tour all for yourself, you can do so this Saturday, January 10th, 7 to 8:30. You can register and sign up for that tour at the Delaware State Parks website. So we'll give you a chance to do that while we take a quick break, but we've got more Coast Life coming at you when we get back.